Hi there. I'm here to interview a few interesting people around personal branding today and social media. And the first gentleman I've got is Tim Hughes. I'm just going to grab him.
Hello, how you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Excellent.
You've just had a bit of a tech break, I hear.
I did, yes. I had 10 days without the internet and social media.
Wow.
I know.
Have you recovered your concentration span?
Well, I had a head of hair beforehand, and it's now all gone. So, yeah, it was good. It was good fun. I do recommend it, actually. I know that you do it from time to time. So,
Yeah, I attempt to. It's very difficult. I go through a process every day, try and meditate and just switch off for a few hours, and
yeah,
it's very difficult. It becomes quite addictive, doesn't it?
it does become addictive. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, you're really great on personal branding. You've helped quite a lot of people, I think, at Oracle to sort themselves out on social media, certainly. But did you kind of look at what they did within the company first, and then sit down and say, well, where do you sort of want to go in the future and that sort of thing? How did you sort of formulate the strategy for them?
I tend to do it on different levels, really. I'm currently running a group because at the moment we're trying to get as many people up to speed on personal branding as we can, and I prefer to do it one-to-one, but it doesn't really scale. And when you've got thousands of people that you want to get up and running, then you've got to kind of do it in groups. So at the moment, I'm currently running a group where we've got about 30 people, and we are, and I've put together a roadmap of the steps that we're going to go through, because quite often, as you're probably aware, usually when people get to know about social media, the first thing they say is, "Can we automate it?" And we're sort of like, hold on a moment, this is all about engagement and about being social. It's not just about doing it and going away and doing something else. So I'm taking them through steps, and it's been quite useful because I'm actually showing that the automation piece is like 2 or 3 months away. So I'm actually not getting questions about it. I think people can go, "Oh yeah, I can see that." So I'll get that in the future. But we're running conference calls every 2 weeks where we're just opening up the call and we're just letting people talk. We do have an agenda that we kind of feel that we want to cover in case people come on just like blabs and just listen. But we are running calls and getting people to actually engage on the call, because at the end of the day, it's about being social. And then what I tend to do is that you'll get some people that will, they'll be social because they've been told to by their bosses, or they have an objective to, so they basically want to tick the box. But there's other people that actually want to really, really get involved in this and actually see the benefits and see the benefit of their career or maybe even their future careers. And those people, we tend to do some, one-to-one stuff. There's one guy recently, I went through he wanted to understand why he couldn't grow his Twitter following. And I just sat down with him and went through his Twitter feed. And within a week, I got him an extra 200 followers.
Wow.
And that was purely because nobody could find him. And I went through, one of the things about personal branding, and I get this a lot, is, what's the objective here? Is it that you've got to tick a box and therefore you're just going to put stuff out on LinkedIn? Or is it that you want people to find what you're saying and find you? And sometimes I think, people, and quite often, as you've been in social a number of years, actually learning how to craft a great tweet can actually take quite a long time.
You're not kidding.
And actually getting something that somebody can find. I mean, I would tend to use the term SEO, but it's kind of not SEO because you're not finding it on a search engine, but it's about making sure that you're found. Because that's kind of what personal branding is about getting people to find, is to get people to find you.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've been working on with them, and getting them to understand about why hashtags are interesting, and and how you use them, and how you can do different things to be a little, so you can actually join in other people's conversations, and using other people's hashtags in a way of expanding your voice, or expanding the number of people that can actually hear what you're saying, but without being too spammy. Just enabling people to hear what you're saying, and get your message out there.
Yeah. I think it's quite difficult if people don't have a clear idea of what they actually want to do with their career. That can be very, very difficult, because you spent a number. I mean, for me, I've repositioned myself a number of times. And I went through. I mean, I'm really fortunate. I've got a strategic marketer that's a personal friend of mine, and he lives, a mile away from my house. So we have regular meetings, brainstorming sessions, and he's really helped me to sort of slow down and actually look down from 40,000 feet at the situation and say, well, all right, so these are your skills. These are where your differences are. These are your USPs. And that's why you're different, and why you get on with certain people versus others. And I think a lot of the time, personal brand, if you get it right, then generally, if you're authentic, the people that you tend to meet face to face, they already sort of know you. I mean, I was in the dental industry about 4 years ago doing some marketing, and I used to write a lot of blogs. And I went to this event, and I was in my black tie and all that stuff. This lady walks up to me, and I sort of looked at her, and she looked at me, and we sort of looked at each other, and I was like, "Do I know you?" And she said, "Do I know you? Who are you?" And then she said, "Oh my God, I read your blog this morning, and it was amazing, and I love what you're doing on your blog and Twitter and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I know who you are." And it's really quite weird how, providing you get the wording right and you're authentic, how you can actually engage with people quite effectively.
Yes. But I mean, my view is that the world has moved into a world of digital, and that means that we're now living our lives online, and that it started off a couple of years ago with you posted pictures of your lunch online and stuff like that. I even did that today. But what we're seeing is that the world of business and commerce has now moved online. And I quite often call people analog people and digital people. And what I have to explain, certainly to the people that I'm working with, is that the internet has changed everything. It changed everything. Amazon started off, was it 15 years ago? It has changed everything. We do things differently. When we buy things, we go online, we go onto Amazon, or we go onto Google, or whatever it is. And we have to have different processes or different working practices to actually meet that change. And part of that is, nowadays, you need to have a personal brand. And forget maybe it's a tick box because your boss has said it. If you want to get a job, or you want to get your next job, you need to have a personal brand to do that. Yeah. I tweeted an article this week, which was actually about somebody who got fired because they didn't have a personal brand.
Wow.
This person worked for a VC, and as far as this VC was concerned, everybody on it had to be a thought leader.
Wow.
And because she didn't have a personal brand and wasn't the thought leader, she got fired. She then took them to court, etc., etc. But in certain instances, what people, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, we've now moved, most of our marketing budget online. That's where everything's taking place, and we as individuals need to do that as well.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend's son is 20, and he recently did a tour of South America for 4 months. He came back and he got a job in 2 weeks, and he got a job in 2 weeks off LinkedIn.
Wow.
So he actually knew about LinkedIn before he went away. He set up his profile, and he was actually posting whenever he could, whenever he got into a Starbucks when he was in Guatemala or whatever.
You've been lucky to find one of them.
Just so that he knew that when he got back, he was in a position that he knew that he was going to get a job, and then he made sure that his profile was up to date. And you know, it's fantastic that somebody can actually get a job in 2 weeks, but just by using LinkedIn. And I think now most people are using social media not as a blank screen. This is my CV, but using it in a personal branding way to get what they want, to advance their career, to move ahead.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, when I got into social media and I started picking up, I'd got about 5,000 followers. I thought, this is really interesting. I want to develop this.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always deliberately developed my personal brand to get where I want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've purposely done that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I'm not the brightest bloke in the world. And therefore there are a lot of people that are brighter than me who could do exactly the same.
Of course.
But it's now because we're now living in a digital world, it's a necessity rather than nice to have.
Yeah. Do you think though that your LinkedIn profile, I mean, say you don't have a website or anything, right? Your LinkedIn profile, if you're on other channels, is really like a landing page, isn't it? It's really a bit like a website, isn't it? That shows off who you are. But crafting the what you actually say on there is, I mean, it's taken me probably about 150 hours to write all my stuff over the years. If you reposition from industry to industry, you move from one part of marketing into another, and then you say, oh, that's not right. So you tweak it, and and then one day you sort of almost happy, and then you kind of just, you think, oh, well, that's quite good, and then you notice that there's a problem, and you got to sort of go back and tweak it.
But I think people did that even in the analog world with their CVs.
They did.
Where you never had one CV, you always had one basic one, which you then changed depending on the job that you were going for.
Yeah.
Because you needed to show that you had particular skills in a particular area.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't have a website. I have a blog. I have a LinkedIn page, and I have 4 Twitter handles. But my LinkedIn profile, it's an advert for me that's up 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and in effect that's searchable on Google. People can find that, and like anything in life, what you need to do is you need to think about who's my end customer, who is it that I actually want to buy, that I want them to buy from me. Mm-hmm. Is that because that for example, for I'm very passionate about social selling. I think that I have value to add in terms of my skills of social selling, and based on I get a lot of inbound, which is something that I mention because it's something that it's the end point that people should be looking for.
Hello?
You should. Hi, sorry, I had a call coming in. Sorry, it was another inbound.
Inbound,
more inbound. Sorry.
So what you mean by inbound? Yeah, because people don't know.
Okay, so inbound for me is where somebody will contact you and say, I've seen your profile, and see that you're doing this. I would be interested in talking to you. So I'm not talking about the constant. I mean, I get constant people trying to sell me stuff.
That's me. I'm always trying to sell you things.
It is you. Yeah. I get people that actually want to buy stuff from me.
Yeah.
And really, you need to be thinking about. You need to be thinking about what is it? What's the end? What's the output? What's the end result that I want from this?
Yeah.
And I know for some people that can be very difficult if you're starting off in work.
Yeah.
It may be something just as simple as I just want a job,
mm-hmm.
or I want a job with particular experience, and that's ultimately your customer is your future employer. In my case, because I'm looking for work around social selling, I'm trying to appeal to people, not to people that know about social selling already, because they know about it. What I'm doing is I'm looking for people that need help or coaching on that. So it's about thinking about who your end customer is, and then creating something that has enough curiosity where they actually go, I want to talk to this person.
Right. So you're really sowing seeds at the top of the funnel to what I mean by that is for people that don't know what that means. It's the stage of the funnel where they don't know they have a problem, because a lot of people, they might be still using the old methods of phone calls and mail and all this stuff. There's nothing wrong with these things, but now digital is kind of, they fit into the digital space, so they're more timely, aren't they? The use of those old school marketing methods fit in there. So
yes. So what we used to do in the past. So the way that you sell things, what you're trying to do is find somebody that hasn't got your product already or service, or somebody that's got a competitor one, and basically you're going to replace it. So what we did in the past was we phoned people up, and we said, and as they were sitting at their desks, you'd phone them up and put it a little bit more diplomatically. You'd say, what you're doing at the moment is rubbish, and we can do it better, or we can do it cheaper, or whatever. And that would annoy people, because they were actually working on some spreadsheet that they'd been, and you'd interrupt them, and then they'd lose the place, and it would, and now you can actually do this far better by doing it through social. And therefore, what the ultimate is to actually have people that actually didn't know that they actually wanted your product and service. So I have people, and I've actually said to them, so how did you find me? And they said, well, I was on LinkedIn, and a friend of mine had liked one of your articles. It looked really interesting, so I went and had a look. I read it. I then decided to look at you in more detail, found one of your blogs, found one of your podcasts, or a blab like this. Really interesting. I wanted to talk to you. I've got this problem.
Right. So really, your marketing, your personal brand is really the lead generation for the further bit of marketing. So really, when they land on your LinkedIn or your blog, in essence, you want them to be very interested in what you're doing already. So then they get there, and then they read useful content which educates them to the point of saying, well, actually, maybe I do need some help with this.
Yes, it's about creating the curiosity for them to actually take an action. Because some people will go, yeah, it's interesting, but I've got thousands of other things to do. So it's about making it so it's a curiosity where they will take an action to make contact with you. And what I'm saying is, this is not personal branding day one. This is personal branding probably day 200. This is the end point that you need to get to. So you kind of need to work back from there, which is where you need to think about your LinkedIn. And I tend to think of LinkedIn and Twitter, for me, in the business space. The two are kind of connected. And you can use one to drive the other, and vice versa.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't tend to see them as being different. But you kind of need to start off in personal branding day one, which is thinking about what's the output, what's my end customer, and what's the action that I want them to take.
And who am I? What am I offering? And why deal with me versus
and you need
else?
And the role of the salesperson has changed to one of being so you'll get that you'll hear out in the marketplace that content is king, and then Gary Vee, who's a well-known US blogger, said that content was king, but context was queen or something. And that's all kind of interesting. But what a lot of people are doing, they're just putting out content and not thinking about why they're putting it out. They're either just being told to do it, or they're just being, they just think that they need to tweet. I've been told I need to tweet, so I'm tweeting. And what they're not doing is thinking about the context But what you need to be doing is actually offering, and I don't like the term value because I don't think actually people know what it means. It's about you're offering knowledge. You're a teacher, and the role of a salesperson now, certainly within a lot of the way that they're working, and the way that people can work from a personal branding, is that you're teaching. So I use this flippant example in a lot of the presentations I give, which is if I need to buy filing cabinets and I don't know anything about filing cabinets, what am I going to do? So I happen to need one, and I happen to go to IKEA, and there was a filing cabinet. I thought, oh, it's cheap, I'll buy this one.
Yeah.
And then someone, happened to be one of the other customers, said, did you know that their filing cabinets don't only take A4, they don't take full scan? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you can't get the whole actual file in it. I didn't know that. So I was about to spend, I actually thought I was spending £60 and saving money, but actually I was about to waste £60.
Yeah.
So there are people out there that are buying your or looking for your products and services, and they like me don't know if you sell filing cabinets. I don't know anything about filing cabinets. So if you actually wrote a piece of content that said the top 10 things you need to know about buying filing cabinets, and then put your name and your contact details at the bottom, you may actually pick up inbound from that.
Yeah, of course.
But if you put filing cabinets 30% off, ring me today, I just think salesperson. I'm going to avoid that person.
Do you know what's really funny, right? I was reading something the other day. I think I was listening to a video or something the other day, a webinar or something. And it's really funny. Those kind of tactics are just aimed at internet marketers who sell them to other internet marketers who think they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. It's like, buy this stuff, buy it now. And they go, wow, that's a really good sales page. I must have one.
And copy it.
Crazy. Yeah, they just copy everybody else. And it's such a shame that they just don't understand that they're only selling to one type of person. And it's just without that value, because you can go anywhere now on the internet and you can absorb content and educate yourself around any subject you want at any time of the day, 365 days a year. You could be anywhere in the world, and pretty much, and you can, and apart from where you've just come back from, but you know, but a great idea. I think I need a tech break myself soon. Actually, I'm going to try and have one.
Just so everybody knows, I've just come back from 10 days in Cuba, and they've only had the internet since the 1st of July of this year.
Wow!
And you're only able to get it in 50 parks, and you have to buy a government-controlled card so they know who's using it.
Wow, fantastic!
So I just thought I'm not going to. I just didn't bother. But it's interesting because it actually this is sort of the discussion that we had, because it's in parks. Actually, all the kids are going there, but they're being social. So while they're actually doing stuff on and actually it's actually, one of the people said it's accelerating the use of English there, because people know that while there is actually a lot of Spanish on the internet, if they want to use it, if they want to use the wider web, they actually need to get involved in English. But they're actually going there and meeting people and talking and actually being social just by doing it in the parks. I don't know if that was some sort of grand scheme and plan, or whether it's just the way that's working. But yeah, they've only had the internet since the 1st of July.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think when bringing it sort of back to the personal branding side of things, I know quite a lot of people in various different industries, really, but the most successful ones are the people who've actually taken the time to say, right, what do I do? Why am I really good at it? Who do I do it for?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how do I want to look from the outside?
Yes.
So I mean, I was talking about this the other day, and it's almost like you need to ask maybe five people, 10 people that you know, to actually look at you from the outside and say, okay, so what do I see? What skills do I see that you have? Because there may be certain things that you're missing. Yeah, you might just think to yourself, oh well, I'm good at this, and this, and actually miss the fact that maybe you've got some other skills that's not making part of your USP up, you know. And I think that's really important to get feedback from your team, your boss, even your people you're managing, and even your friends, your wife, maybe not.
I think that's a really important point. That's a really important point, Nat. I think people quite often think that when they create their LinkedIn profile or whatever, they need to be some sort of thing. They need to be somebody they're not. And one of the things that they quite often come across is being what I would call a corporate suit. So most young people, the interns that I'm working with, they generally see LinkedIn as a bunch of old, boring people over 40, and kind of see it as, I've often seen it as being irrelevant.
Hello.
Sorry.
Another phone call.
And that was another call coming in. Sorry. I need to put this on Do Not Disturb next time. Okay, I've learned something.
All right.
So quite often you actually need to be yourself, and you need to think about, what is it that my family and friends how they think of me. You're loyal, you're trustworthy. You don't need to put all those. People put I'm tenacious. And put all the things that they put on their CV. Every salesperson is tenacious. And
of course,
and you just need to sort of like loosen up a bit, and you probably need to think about it wearing jeans rather than wearing a suit, and just loosen up and really think about, and when someone comes to LinkedIn, because it is your personal brand and your advert, you need to be a fully rounded person. So for example, I've done, cycling for charity, so that's on there. Mm-hmm. So people know, and people start thinking, well, I'm not just a person who works for a large tech company, and I do things, and I do things outside of work, and they see a more rounded picture of who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to do as well. It's just loosen up a bit, and have that picture of, as I said, who is it that your friends and family think that you are?
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you might not see that, and that's something, the skills that you might have, like, they might just not see it at all, really, the particular person. But you could also go the other way, though, couldn't you? You could make a mistake of actually being too informal, and I think that's something that, LinkedIn certainly. I mean, if we're talking about that, is I've seen some crazy pictures on there recently. I mean, I've got probably not as big a network as you on there, but I'm into like 5,000, and I get so much stuff pop up. I'm sort of overwhelmed by it now. But yeah, I mean, for me, I just went for I designed a 1-page document, and that took about 16 different revisions to create a 1-page document. And really, it's very, very simple, the way that I format. Anyone can copy the format if they want to have a look. It's on my website. It's in natschooler.com in my About Me section. So, you can actually just copy the format. It's really, really simple, and I think if you make things too complicated and you add in too many fancy pants words that you generally don't know what the meaning, or don't know what they mean, and you try and be somebody else, then when people meet you, they're like, who the hell is this person? And it's almost like they bought you. They bought you as a person because they thought you were genuine. They thought you were authentic. They thought you were excited and positive. And then they meet you in person, and you're just like, who is this lady or gentleman? They don't look anything like what they're like, online. And it's kind of finding the balance, isn't it, between what you would say in front of your parents and people that, like professional world, and what you would say in front of your friends, And I think it's very difficult to kind of put a plan together for that. But I don't know. I think people share far too much stuff that's completely irrelevant to what their expertise is, and they share stuff without even reading it. And I've stopped doing that. I did it ages ago when I was new to social. I sort of shared loads of stuff, and it doesn't really help. You can sort of share things, but if you don't read them, and that creates a lot of problems, I think, for some people.
There's a lot of noise starting to happen on LinkedIn, and part of that is that there's a current trend now to employee advocacy, which is a lot of organizations think that is so. That what that means is that rather than actually sending out lots of emails to organizations, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put lots of crap content out for my employees.
Yes, completely.
And the employees are either told to do it or are doing it and putting out rubbish unwillingly. I mean, the amount of stuff, my news feed on LinkedIn is particularly noisy anyway, but there's an awful lot of rubbish. Or there's probably actually an awful lot of good content, but it's hidden away. There's webinars where there's one today where somebody's taken a lot of time to put a webinar together, but the item that they're using to put on LinkedIn has got verbose jargon, internal supplier language.
Oh, well done. That's a really good point. I've got to stop you there.
Okay, yeah.
It's a brilliant point, because whatever industry we're in, right, we kind of get obsessed with features. Yeah, we get obsessed with features. Yeah, and this is a big problem in certainly the technology world, and certainly social media. People talk about features. Yeah, it's not like what it can do for the end user, how they can help someone. They talk about features all the time, and that's something that's so important. It's so important for where we're at.
It's back to outputs again. What is it that where? Okay, so who's using your product and service? What customers are using it, and what benefit are they getting from it?
Yeah.
I was at a presentation yesterday where we as an organisation are providing a system that's allowed us to find 100 million, or we've made 100 million pounds worth of savings in the NHS.
Wow, fantastic!
Now that's really exactly. So you're going like, well, how did you do that? And I'm not going to tell you because it's actually dead dull and boring.
It's boring, yeah.
now, if I'd actually told you up front and started talking about some of the technical complexity of it, you would have fallen asleep. But the fact that I've hit you with